Hello, viewers. It's nice being on the show again today. Um, Today with me in the studio is Erin. Erin, is nice seeing you.
You too.
Yeah, I wish we'll have enough time to talk, but just to make it, make the time worth it, I'll allow us to just get into it right away. So please, is there any way you would want the audience to get to know you, especially?
Yeah, so I'm Erin. I'm 29 years old. I'm a disability advocate. I'm working to be a mental health counselor for people that are disabled. And I was injured in 2017, so I'm a C5 quadriplegic.
Interesting. Any other thing to it, or just that?
What?
Any other thing to it, or just that? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
That's correct. So your story is quite an interesting story. And in fact, it was mind blowing. I say it is a story that defies all expectation and redefine resilience. What's the story like? What was this journey like?
What was the journey like?
Yeah,
It was hard. Like, I think the first 2 to 3 years is the hardest because you're really adjusting to, a new life and adapting to figuring out how to do a lot of things, especially at my level because I don't have hand function. So I need a lot of help with things. Um, but yeah, it's been great, and I feel like it definitely has really changed me as a person.
yeah. So I want you to break it down because we believe that you've broken every barrier of, struggle and resistance, right?
Mhm.
You're stronger than what we anticipated, right? Now it is beyond the ordinary.
Yeah.
Tell us the story how it happened, from when you never imagined this situation to how it happened and how you were able to receive it.
So like, how did I get injured? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, how did it all happen? You were
Yeah.
not born this way. You
Yeah.
would wake up in a wheelchair, and how did you become this strong on the wheelchair?
So I was 21 and I went to my brother's apartment, and I met up with my boyfriend at the time. And we went up on the roof on a hammock that was attached to a chimney on one side. So when we sat on the hammock, the chimney collapsed on me and
Wow.
basically broke my neck. So that is what left me quadriplegic. And I actually don't remember waking up until 3.5 weeks later.
Hmm.
And when I woke up, I was on the vent, so I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't really do anything. So it was pretty scary. But then I went to rehab for 3.5 months, and that was better because I could kind of focus on recovery a little bit.
Hmm. Well, this is mind blowing. Um. So what does this story tell us of resilience?
Say it again.
What does this tell us of resilience?
Yeah, I think it just shows that it's really about how you react to a situation and about how your attitude is, because there's a lot of people that are injured, same injury as me, and they never figure out how to live life again. They get depressed, and I think it is easy to get depressed, and I do feel like having such a good support system really helped me to be able to stay positive.
Yeah. So I think at this point I really need us to talk real talk, like real talk. You know, at some point you were walking very fine. At some point you were good. You could run, could dance with your hands, your legs, and you're cool. But then at some point, all those things were locked and never was going to come back again.
Yeah.
What were the things in place that made you stronger and stronger by the day Some persons would have committed suicide. Some persons would have resorted to being depressed. But you were bright as ever. What happened?
Um, that's always hard for me to answer because I feel like I just really like I saw other people in the situation that were really sad, and I was like, I really don't want that to be me. So I think the biggest thing that helped me was setting goals. Like I want to like short-term goals. So getting stronger, getting in a manual chair from a power chair, and then long-term goals like going back to school, going back to work, and keeping myself busy. And I did go back to college and finish my senior year, so that really helped distract me from the injury, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So let's move away a little from how it all happened. I came across some of the things you're doing on your page and some of the things you've been doing so far as projects. And I saw an app. You have an app. Talk to us about the app. What was it all about?
So, something my brother and I came up with when I first was injured and in the hospital. I was super isolated and I started trying to reach out to other people that had the same injury as me. And the only people I could find were like bigger followings, and I couldn't, no one would respond to me basically. So that kind of made me sad. And my brother and I had so many questions about the injury. So we were like, wouldn't it be great if there was one place where you could just go and search your injury, your age, your uh, disability, and basically find people or even find answers to questions. So the 10% app is what we're creating, and it will be a social networking app for the disability community, basically with forums and events and stuff like that, kind of like support groups, but I don't know, kind of like everything combined, I guess.
Yeah, but how is it going?
So we're beta testing right now, but we are launching June 1st.
Okay, that's fine. So let's move away a little from the app. Tell us what was family like to you. Um, what was your what? Tell us a little about your family background
So,
and what role they played in your condition.
so I actually have four siblings, and my parents were together at the time of my injury. And my mom was definitely my biggest support system. She stayed in the hospital with me the whole time, all through ICU, rehab. My mom was amazing. She was my caregiver for 3.5 years full time. She quit her job. So she was great. My brother was 19 at the time that I was injured, and he was really supportive. And he still is. And we still, working on this app together. And then my other siblings, my sisters they were supportive, but I think that they struggled with it a little bit more. One of my sisters was far away, and the other sister was still in college. So I think that they struggled with me being injured, I think. So it was harder for them to support me in the beginning.
And it was all good, I guess. Now,
Yeah, yeah. Like they've all been really supportive and really, really great to me now.
I like that. So, in a situation like this, there's something that I am always concerned about, which is how people manage with stigmatization. How were you able to deal with the stigma around your situation, your condition?
Um, I think I definitely struggled like when I would go out in public because people like stare at you and ask you weird questions. But in the beginning, you're mostly at rehab and PT and OT. So you're around so many other people in wheelchairs that you're like, oh, it's normal. And everyone's like, it's just normal when you're there. But when you're pulled out of that situation and you go out in public that are like, oh, like people aren't used to seeing someone in a wheelchair, especially because I was only 21. I'd have a lot of people like come up to me and be like, "You're too young to be in a wheelchair," and I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you.
Like, like that. But that's interesting anyway. So this might sound little let's say weird or awkward, but I just want to know what are those things that people believe you can do that you surprise them currently?
I think the biggest thing is actually like behind the scenes stuff. So people look at me and my fiance and they're like, oh, he does everything. Like he takes care of you, he does the dishes, he does the chores. But people don't see that I'm also in school to get my master's in mental health counseling. I'm managing finances, I'm managing appointments, I'm making all the calls. Like I'm doing all of those things. And I think people look at me and they're like, she doesn't do anything. So that's definitely one of the biggest things.
Tell us now that you talked about it. How do you manage all these things you mentioned? How are you able to go through all these things? It's interesting and surprising to discover that.
So basically, the biggest thing was learning how to use my phone. And once I could learn how to use my phone, I feel like you can do pretty much anything.
Hmm.
So yeah, learning how to use my phone. I have like a little loop on it and I hold it like that. And I go on my phone like that with my pinky.
Hmm.
So it's pretty cool. And I can make all the calls and I can do everything. I can use a computer, but I'm not that good at typing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
voice text, so that works really well. Trying to think. Yeah, I don't know.
I like that. So what is um Erin doing currently and what roadmap do you have at the moment? And what message are you trying to push through your community?
So currently, I do disability advocacy on social media, and then we're also creating the app, so that'll be launching soon. I'm also a master's from home, and hopefully, be doing mental health counseling soon. But yeah, my biggest message, I guess, is just to normalize disability and get people more comfortable with it because people just aren't educated, and I wasn't educated before my injury. I don't think I knew anything, so I can't remember like one interaction that I had with someone in a wheelchair. Like maybe I did, but I can't remember. So I think just getting people more comfortable is the biggest thing.
So getting people comfortable with disability, where they see disability as a normal thing, right?
Yes.
And can have a complete conversation, without being surprised about why or, right?
Exactly.
So how do you intend to achieve that, and what are you doing currently to ensure that that comes to play?
I think first and foremost, educating people about what disability is and how different it can be, like the sense that like I'm in a wheelchair and I don't have function from the chest down and I don't have finger function, but there's people in wheelchairs that can still get up and walk. Ambulatory wheelchairs can still walk. So basically showing that not every disability is the same, and also teaching people to just see you as a person and to not make the weird comments like, oh, you should like careful you don't get a speeding ticket. And like I think people are just uncomfortable and that's why they say those things. And it's not a big deal, but it is when you go to the grocery store and every person you see says a weird comment. Like it just gets old, I guess.
Hmm. So what you're saying is I don't need to walk past a disabled and take a second look. Do you understand what I mean? Like I'm
No.
shocked. I don't need to walk past a disabled and take a second look.
Yeah.
Like surprised. I'm amazed at what has happened here. So we need to see them as the normal people in the environment and approach them normally, right?
Right. And I think, and for me, it's hard because a lot of people don't want to be asked questions, and probably I'll answer because I like to educate. But if you're just trying to go get your groceries, you might not want to explain your medical condition. It's kind of like if you had depression, but nobody can see that. But what if people came up to you and they were like, so like, tell me about your mental health and why are you depressed? Like, that's a very personal question. So I think it's just because physical disabilities are so much more visible, people feel
Yeah,
comfortable asking.
yeah. So um, how I'm trying to see how I can put this and it makes more sense, right? Um, how did you manage your mental state, right?
Mm-hmm.
With your situation or your challenges. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah.
Your mental condition, how were you able to manage it?
I think that, like I said earlier, setting goals, but also keep keeping myself surrounded by people. So not being alone, not isolating myself, and then forcing myself out of my comfort zone, like going to work out and going and hanging out with friends. I think that really keeps you from being alone and like spiraling with your thoughts. Going back to school was huge because you're so busy with working on school. So yeah, I think that really helped my mental health. I feel like I've been pretty lucky. I never struggled with mental health issues even before my injury, so I think that probably helped me too. I've always been pretty optimistic, so I think the people that struggle the most are people that have kind of always struggled with their mental health.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But then again, what would be your advice to people who are currently in your kind of situation?
I think my advice would be to reach out to other people that have a similar condition as you, because that is really helpful to like make connections with people that are going through the same thing. You can talk to them about it. They understand, like you're not alone. Like I am friends with a guy that's quadriplegic. And when he first got injured, he thought he was the only one in the world with this exact injury, which is crazy because there's thousands of people. So I think
Mm.
just realizing that you're not the only person going through this it really helps.
Yeah, so back to the app you were trying to introduce, right?
Mhm.
And you were talking about this app trying to connect you with possibly people with like conditions, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you are able to connect with people with like conditions, how does that also solve the problem of trying to normalize disability? Because and trying to create people with like minds, you're getting disconnected from people you're trying to educate about disability to see you as normal and see disability as normal. Now you're gradually shifting to creating a community of disabled people where you now take yourself away from the people who maybe feel they are normal.
Yeah. I would say that the 10% app is not for normalizing disability. It's more for the disability community to like come together and be stronger together. It's not, I don't think it's really going to be for normalizing it for the able-bodied community. I think normalizing it for the able-bodied community would be more posting on Instagram or social media, like, or acting in movies and being in media. Like, I think anything like that to give us more visibility. but I don't think the app will necessarily do that.
Okay. So the last time I asked you what will be, your advice to people who are disabled, and now I'm going to ask you also, what will be your advice to people who do not have any form of disability?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, my advice would be try to follow on social media disabled people and just try to be open-minded and learn about it, because that's something that I didn't get to do. And there's so many disabled people with all different disabilities on social media. So I would say if you're just following a few of them, you're going to learn like actually what their day-to-day life is like, and they're going to want to educate you about your disability. So that way you can learn through social media, and that way you don't feel like when you see a disabled person in public that you have to go up and ask them questions, because you can learn on your own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. So, but then again, I think I started figuring out something right now, and that is, does being disabled, you know, tell you something great about life beyond the ordinary?
Yeah, it definitely gives you like a new perspective. I think the biggest thing for me is it helped me to slow down in life, because it forced me to slow down. So it really helped me to focus on the good moments and just not feeling like I had to rush to the next thing and rush to the next thing. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it really just makes you sit there and be like, wow, like what was I even doing before this? Why was I so busy?
Yes, but and then again, you see that there were new perspective to life, right? There
Yes.
were other, or will I say, other perspective to life that you never thought of. There were also other abilities that you never imagined that began to come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were skills you never knew that you had until that moment came. And then after a while, you began to evolve and you saw a new you, right?
Yep.
So, what would you say about that?
I think it's a good thing. Like, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn how strong you can really be. Like, I didn't like, for example, I used to be very like particular about be not being on time, but like how everything was organized and everything had to be perfect. And that my injury has made me let that go, because I'm like, I don't have as much control over things. So I have to let it go. And it's been kind of nice to let it go and to not be so worried about little things that don't matter.
Yeah, little things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Erin, I must confess that it's a wonderful time with you in the studio, and I'm not letting you go yet.
Okay.
So we're gonna go on just a few seconds break, and
Okay.
then we'll go back. You give us your last take. Yes, we're back, followers. If you're following us today, with me in the studio is Erin. Erin is a very phenomenal person, also interesting to be with. Thank you guys for following us consistently. If you're not following us yet, you can follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, and on Spotify, and also on TikTok. And do well to comment and then like and also share with your family and friends. Having said that, Aaron, before we went on the break, I said you're gonna give us your last stake, but I think you're not gonna give us your last stake yet. One more thing before you leave the studio. Tell us what is your general understanding about life that you never had before.
Ooh, let me think. Um, I'm trying to think of a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like the biggest thing is just learning that you're always going to have bad days. So learning that that's okay, let yourself have that bad day, and then
Yeah.
try to have a good day the next day. My thing was always don't have a bad week. Like it's okay to have a bad day, but don't like let it go on and on and on. Like have your bad day and then the next day like it's a new day. And I think that's really helped my mental health and my perspective on life.
So again, tell us again. Obviously, one of the things you're doing now that you want people to get to know about, that you're so passionate about.
Um what do you mean? Like the 10% app?
Yeah, if it's a project or whatever, tell us again. Very obvious, so people will get to know it clearly.
So the 10% app will be launching June 1st. So anyone in the disability community, definitely download it and check it out and let us know what you like and what you don't like because we really want to cater to the disability community. So I only know about my disability and I try to learn about others, but it's easier if they just tell us. So yeah, that's definitely what we're excited about.
Yeah. So before you go, one more thing. Um, tell us how people can get in touch with you, or how you would want people to get in touch with you, what platform, how.
I think Instagram is the best for me. So it's at Erin.field with two D's at the end. Um, yeah, so feel free to DM me on Instagram. I respond to every message. So I love to talk to people and educate people, whatever you're looking for. Yeah, so I also have YouTube and Facebook but I mostly check my Instagram messages.
Okay, that's interesting. So before you leave the studio, we'll have a culture where the guest will drop question for the next guest, not knowing who the guest might be. So what will be your question for the next guest?
Ooh, it can be anything.
Anything, anything.
Well, I would love to say I don't know if this will be like related to anything that they're talking about, but I would love to say something about disability, like di- uh, maybe like, do you follow anyone with a disability on social media? Because I think that would be a way to make someone be like, oh, I don't follow anyone. Maybe I should.
Hmm. I think I'll have to write this thing down. I'm taking notes. Do you follow anyone with disability on social media, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Erin, it's nice having you in the studio. Honestly, we apologize for taking your time, and we really, really appreciate your time with us. Honestly, I must confess, this has been a wonderful time with you, and
Yeah.
thank
Thank you
you
for
for
having me.
yeah, thank you. Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
I'm gonna say bye and
Bye.
see. Uh, it is interesting having Erin in the studio. Um, irrespective of her disability, she is a strong mind. Um, so strong and unbroken. I tag her the unbreakable. She's so strong with her advocacy. And guys, thank you also once again for always stopping by to um, be with us and see what we're doing in the studio. Like I said earlier, if you're not following us, do where to follow us on all our social media platforms on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, and TikTok. And also do well to comment, like, and share with your family and friends. God bless you and thank you for what you do. In our last and famous word, we say love, peace, and more grace. We will see you again next week. Bye. But don't forget, he's your boy, OVG. See you guys next week.